Good morning and welcome back to Planner Craft. I'm Natalie and today we're going to be doing a little bit of quick cutting while I'm checking a blade. So I just need a cutting mat to get started. Now, as I've been doing lots of photographing, my camera's a bit wonky, so I'll just adjust that. Now I've pulled out some nice thick DL card that we can create our card with. So you can either do this in white or craft, either or. So I'm going to start by putting my first sheet down at the 1 inch mark, so that I can make sure that I get my design centered. Okay. Now at this point, if you want to, you can also apply your other card so that you can create like a layered effect and then just 3D it up, but I think for this first one I'm going to just leave it nice and flat. So let's start with this one. Now my plan is that I'm going to actually create a bit of a layered look, so I'm actually going to cut inside the edge of my card, and then I'm going to do a centre aperture as well, and then if we're really good, we can add a bit of a stitched effect as well. So let's load that into the machine. Come on. It's having one of those days today. Good morning, Sarah Lou. How are you? I'm not doing too bad. I'm recovering from early in the week, so it's been emotional. But we get there. Okay, there we go. Good morning, Carol. So let's grab our pencil, or you can use your stylus, and we are going to do a little bit of work with the files on the actual machine. So as I said, I want to create a panel. So let's start with the rectangle. So I'm going to go back by proportions roughly, and I'm going to load in rectangle 22. So this is the thinnest of the 3 rectangles, and I'm just going to leave that as it is at the moment for its size, and let's give the mat a quick scan. Okay, so if you need to see it's going to look clearer, I'm just going to go into settings and just make that a little bit darker. There you go. So I'm going to bring my rectangle down, and the first thing we need to do is rotate it. So if we go into Object Edit, we can rotate 90 degrees. Okay, I'm going to go into Resize, and let's move that into the middle, because it always resizes from the middle. Okay, now we can see that we've got a bit of an uneven ratio. So we've got a bit of a random border at this top and bottom. So if we hit the ratio button, which is this one just here, we can adjust that height independently. And just bring that down just a touch. I'm just going to go OK at that. So we want to make sure that we're leaving a border all the way around. I'm just going to go into move and just nudge that where it needs to go. Okay, so there's our centre rectangle. And to that we need to add our shape for our aperture. So let's go OK, and to add again, and I'm going to go into pattern, designs, and let's go holiday, and I'm going to go for the Christmas tree. So at the moment the Christmas tree is going to be huge and way too big for our project, but I'm just going to go OK. I want to bring in all pieces at once. Now if you are using a CM, you'll have to bring them in one at a time. That doesn't give the option to bring them all in as one. Okay, so if I move my camera, there we go, we can see that we've got a little group icon down at the bottom. Now what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to tap that so that it's removed. So that means that when our pieces come in, they'll still all be selected, but they won't be grouped together. Okay, so I've then got the two pieces that are individual, and what I want to do is actually weld them into one shape. So if we go into edit, and you're going to see straight away it's got those two shapes selected, object edit and weld. So that's going to straight away put everything together and go OK. We can then drag this across, go into resize, and we're going to shrink it down. So you don't want to go too small, but at the same point you also don't want it too big. Okay, now you have a couple of options at this next point. If you want to do a stitched effect, you're probably better off either doing it by hand or taking it into canvas and doing the stitched effect in there, or you can do it by hand or have a solid outer line. So I'll tell you what, let's do a quick save to the cloud. So if we go to save and tap the top right, we can send that to canvas. I can go OK. Now bear with me one moment. Morning Linda, hope you're okay. So I did say I would do a little bit of a guide to next year as well today. So what we are currently thinking is that we are going to be moving away from Facebook as a platform for the lives and focusing mainly on YouTube, so that we can try and drive the numbers up over there. Okay, so there's going to be a little bit of time where you can see my usual display, but that's okay. So let's go display, and I'm going to make that bigger. There we go. So hopefully you can see that all okay. And let's zoom in, and we're going to go to File, Import Premiere Cutting Machine, and we're going to go FCM. And that's going to bring in your lines. Now if we go into Layer, bear in mind that as we've added these designs to our mat on our machine, when they're in the machine they are cut and draw lines. As soon as we bring them into the downloaded version of Canvas, they are going to change to cut only. So that means that then when we start to play with things like drawing, we're not going to end up with having our cut lines drawing as well. So let's go for our tree first of all. I'm going to go to Edit, I'm going to go to Offset. Now we want this first line to go outside, but we don't need it to be that far away. So let's bring that right down to 3mm. Now we've got a shape here with lots of points, and if we go to round, what it's going to do is round those off. But I think what might look better for these was if we go for a bevel instead. So I'll try that. We want to leave the original line as is, and this one here doesn't matter for this shape, so I'm just going to go OK, and then we have our little offset. Now with our offset shape, we're going to go to our line dash pattern, and let's pick a nice stitching style like so. OK. We also want to say that that is going to be drawn, and to help us for our reference we'll turn it blue, because that's what our machine will see it as, and it will show it as blue. And I'm going to do the same for our rectangle, but this time when we do offset we're going to go inside, so we'll keep the same distance but we'll go inward, and again we'll stick to bevel and leave as is, and that's going to go around the inside, and we can use the same pattern again and set that to blue. Now before we go too far, just double check, yeah, I forgot to do that, so just set that to draw. Okay, so now we need to align all of these pieces, so I'm just going to select all of those and we can go centre. So that's looking good, and with that done we can go to File, and then we want to export it back to our machine and go OK. So there we go. Good morning, Delcy. And we're going to go back to the ScanNCut. So at the moment we've still got our original designs with our cut and draw line on. So what I want to do is just reset. So we're going to go home to reset, go to retrieve data, and we want it from the cloud. Okay, so let's see if I can get that a little bit clearer. So we can now see that we have our cut and draw line, and then it's up to you which way round you want to do this, whether you want to draw first or if you want to cut first. Usually I do whichever I feel is the riskier first, so that you're not wasting too much time if it goes wrong. So let's grab our pen holder, and our pen is hiding just in there. Okay, let's pop overhead for a moment. So load up the pen, get the nib through the centre. That's the really important bit, is making sure that it goes through that centre point so it's nice and accurate. Make sure that it grates on that bottom guide, and we can release. Now, as we've done that little bit of grating, it can sometimes pick up a little bit of debris, so just have a bit of scrap card that we can just clean that off on. Okay, pop it in the machine. There we go. So it's ScanNCut, we can go OK. And we're going to go draw first of all. Okay, speed 1, pressure, I'm going to pop back up as we were avoiding yesterday. And away it goes. So next week there isn't going to be a schedule live as such. It's going to be more a case of as and when there's something that I'm doing that I think would be good for you guys to kind of join in on. So do keep an eye out, have your notifications turned on, and I will try and give you a bit of a heads up when I decide to go. But a lot to do next week, so presents to make, which are always interesting to try and do live. And then I've got some samples that unfortunately I can't show you because there's lots of new things that are coming next year. So the pen I'm using is the Uniball Signo Broad, which has this really broad white line. And good morning, Michelle, that was good timing. So, there we go. See if it'll focus. You never know. Come on, camera. There you go, if ever you want a nice fuzzy shot. There we go, it gets there eventually. Okay, so we have our drawing done. I'm just going to unscrew the pen holder and slide out my pen. And I'm just going to slide it back in my pot. So gel pens that I'm using frequently, I tend to store nib down just so they're good to go. If they're going to be kind of sitting there for any amount of time, just lay them down. No, it's just the camera. Well, unless you've been on the Baileys first thing in the morning, you know, it's Christmas, but no. Okay, so I'm going to go okay, and now we're going to go back to please select, and we can go to cut. Now this is where it's going to get interesting, because I was talking to Carol last night about new blades. So I have a brand new blade in my holder, and so let's see how it goes. So if you saw my streams earlier in the week, you'll know that my standard blade has been playing up a bit because I've worn it into submission on grey board. So what I'm going to do is, as this is a fresh blade, first thing to do is to drop that pressure right down, just in case. The chances are you may not go straight through, but you certainly might score your mat if it's too deep to start with. And the other thing to look at, Carol, if you are struggling, is just down here at the bottom you have cut amount. So sometimes if you're finding that you just aren't getting through anything with your blade right, what you think is the right pressure, if you pop up the cut amount, sometimes that will solve the issue for you. So basically what it's saying in theory is that each time it goes around it's going to cut 0.5mm each time. Okay, does it work out like that? Not necessarily. So yeah, for instance, if you are using something like 1mm grey board, does it mean that you'll just do 2 cuts round? Not always, but it's a good place to start. So I'm going to go okay. Make sure your half cut is off, and then we can go ahead. And yes, the white gel pen on Craft Card is brilliant, but so is, if you watch back yesterday's, the white foil as well. Okay, let's, there we go. Cards having a little bit of a wiggle, so I think it's getting to the time to give them a mat clean. So if it's an artistic mat, just give it a bit of once over with a lint roller. Oh, quick cutting. Oh, it's so nearly there. It just went a bit wonky donkey at the end. That's a shame. So there's a little tiny bit. Let's just go overhead. So there's a little tiny bit just there where it didn't quite meet up, where it started to go a bit haywire. So what I'm going to do is just try and snip that. So let's get a cutting mat. So any cutting mat will do. And let's get a knife. So, in terms of knives, I tend to have two that I go to. So, the slice is a ceramic blade, so it's very unlikely to cut you, which is always good. I have my STX on auto settings still. Keep meaning to alter them. Okay. If you are finding auto works for you, then you can keep it on auto. But what I would say is, if you suddenly find that you are getting through a lot of blades, so by a lot I'm talking about with daily use, if you're getting through them 6 months in, then that's saying that your pressure is probably a little too high. So in which case you need to go to the manual. Carol's question. I take it manual blade cut pressure has nothing whatsoever to do with it. The manual blade cut pressure is there for when you are using these two. So if you have a SCM machine as well as an SDX, you should have at least that one already. But I did a video going a few weeks back now about why you would use your manual blades in your SDX, and the manual blade cut pressure is what basically controls the pressure for these blades, because it doesn't have that same ability to kind of test the thickness of the material to get the pressure with this blade. So basically what we found was, when going between the two machines, is whatever you would set it to on the CM, I ended up taking it up 1 notch of pressure when I put it on the SDX. So your way you can do that is with your blade depth as well, if you wanted to, but pressure was enough for us. There you go. The other point to make is, obviously, if you are cutting something that is super duper thick, and this is what I should have done with the grey board, is use the deep cut blade instead of your standard blade. Be much happier. So, you live, you learn. So, let's very quickly finish off my tree trunk. One's from the front and one's from the back. There we go. Oh, we can lift that away. There we go. So, we have our tree. Now, what I would say, Carol, is I did notice when I put the new one in, it does wiggle a bit more than the old blade did. So I think the wiggle is alright. So just check your cut amount and try again. So mine's on 0.5. Likewise, if you find it's overcutting and scoring your mat, you can take that cut amount down to 0.35 if you've done the most recent updates. So with that done, let's bring in my other piece of craft card. So the idea is that we can layer that up So you can either go front to front on that card, or it has a slightly different tone on the back. So if you want to do a bit of a tone on tone, we can do that. However, I thought it'd be really fun to bring in a material that I haven't shown live on stream, or at least not that I remember doing. And that is basically a peel-off sheet. So this is on like a cross between vinyl and foil. It's self-adhesive, so that you do a half cut with it, and we can actually cut it to our shape if you want to, or if you just want to cut it to a square and pop it behind, that's fine too. So let's go to our machine and move my camera back around and down a bit. There we go. So if I go back, at the moment I've still got all those shapes on the mat. Wait that again please, Nat. So the cut them out, so if we, not the best for you to do it in, Natty. When I go back through the cut, I'll just quickly cut them out again. Okay, so it's at the bottom underneath your cut pressure, manual cut pressure, and you cut the bead. There's a little section that says cut amount. So mine was 0.5 if you want to try that, Carol, and then go from there. So with our shapes on the mat, we only want to keep our tree right in the middle, so we can go into edit and we can delete the other elements. Now this one here looks like the tree, so if I click and drag, there we go. So let's get rid of that one, and the outside there as well. Okay, now that scan's getting a bit annoying, so what we can do is we can just turn it off and we can see, oh, the green stuff. Okay, so here we go. Let's pop back overhead. So if you want to find the exact one, so it's 6 sheets of self-adhesive mirror foil. The colour I'm using is red green pack, but you've also got, in this case, the pink and ice blue. The pink is almost like a lilac-y pink, it's quite nice. So it's like a cross between foil and vinyl, so it's got a nice foil finish. Ooh. Cascade of things. So with our tree selector, I'm going to go into Object Edit, Offset, change camera, will be good, and I want to go outside enough that we are going to kind of conceal any borders, so let's go a little bit bigger, just in case we decide to put some foam tape, doing our layers, and I'm going to go OK at that. So at this moment the original shape is still selected, so we can go and delete that, so we're just left with the offset. So now we can apply our foil stick material to the mat. Now bear in mind that I know my mat isn't quite sticky enough at the moment, so I'm going to go a little bit careful. I'm going to swap to my vinyl blade, just because I know I'm going to be doing a half cut with something that is quite not so much fragile, but because we've got that shiny surface, we want something that's going to be a little bit more less likely to slip. I'm going to go OK, and I should be good to go there. I'm going to go please select cut, and let's go into the settings. So Carol, the bit that I was on right is at the bottom, so that's the cut amount, and then I'm going to go down and we're going to turn on our half cut. Now, because we're turning on the half cut, that means that it's going to use the cut pressure for half cut, which is the one directly underneath it. So that's going to ignore the cut pressure. It's also going to ignore the manual cut pressure, and it's just going to focus on that half cut pressure. Okay. Now what I would say is, if you usually do a full cut at say -6, when you come to do the half cut, that's the time I tend to leave mine on auto. So it's not very often that you'll see me leave something on auto, but half cut I tend to let it work it out itself. It's not always perfect, but it gets the job kind of close enough that you can usually cope with it. So I'm going to go okay. So then when we come back out, you're going to see that half cut is on and our pressure says auto. Now you could put a weeding box on this. And if it was a more detailed design, like a sentiment or an ornate design from section O, as they call them, then you definitely want to put a weeding box round and weed away the waste. Okay. So now for the fun bit, trying to get this lined up. And I'm going to very gently peel this away from the sheet. So let's go back overhead. And we can see that if I turn it over, it's got foil backing. So it's literally more like foil with adhesive than, you know, in standard vinyl. Now I'm going to position my layer over the top like so. And let's just quickly grab a pen. So I have here a little bit of an erasable pen. And I'm just going to give myself just a few dots as a guide. Now these are not going to be perfect positioning, but as long as you know that you're covering them, you should be alright. So I'm just going to do a dot there, a dot down the bottom, and a dot down the bottom. So as long as we know all those points are covered, we're good to go. So let's work sideways. Okay, and we should be good to go there. Now it will pick up on any texture that's on that underneath card, so if you want it perfectly smooth, then choose a nice smooth card. But I don't mind my tree having a bit of texture. Okay, so at this point we could go, okay, there's my layer, and we could say, well actually that's job done. But it's up to you if you want to add things like washi tape in there, or if you want to use offcuts of ribbon, or if you want to do you could almost do a shaker element if you want to, so just cut that same shape from some foam, and then you can use that to actually build up your shaker layer, and just back your cut panel with a bit of acetate. So what I'm going to do before I go too far, let's bring in our ribbon tub. And you can see I have lots of ribbons. So my challenge has been for this Christmas to use all my Christmas ribbons and washes up, especially the washes, because they don't last forever. So don't really want to go green because the chances of us matching this green is going to be pretty slim. So I could go for festive wishes. I could go for a bit of a tartan effect. We could go quite subtle with our Happy Christmas. Or we can just keep it nice and simple with the red stars, which is what I think I'm going to go for. Okay, so let's take our washi. I'm going to take my front panel and line it up on my mat so that I'm using my grid. And then I can use the grid across here to get my washi tape level and decide which line I'm going to go for. So I think I'm going to go there, so I'm just going to take that down and press it down. Do we need to worry about being nice and neat for this one? No, not really. I'm just going to take a little bit of this washi off here so that I can kind of put a sentiment on my card without having too much of a faff. So, and let's pop that on there, like so. And we can do a little bit of a tartan flag as well to go over to this left hand side so that we balance. So I'm just going to trim that off. If we fold over our washi tape so that we fold pattern in, and like so, so it's close to half and half as you can get. I'm going to snip into it, like so, and then we have a nice little flag at the end of our washi. And I'm just going to place that on there. And like that. So now with all that applied, we can lift that up and we can just wrap that round. Gives us a nice neat finish. Job done. So then you just need to decide whether you want to just keep it nice and flat or if you want to layer it up. So what I think I will do, just to kind of enhance that edge a little bit, is I'm just going to grab my walnut stain ink . I'm just going to go around the edges. Now, when you do this, it's not going to look very much until you actually put it down onto the other card. But it is quite a wet pad, so probably going to ink myself at some point. I'm just going to blend that along with the blending brush, and that should get any excess ink so it don't go all over me. That's the plan. Okay. So you don't want to be kind of brushing it too much onto the front, otherwise what your stitching is going to do is it's going to pick up that ink and soak right up. So like we did the other day where we had this effect going on, which we don't want on this occasion. We want to keep our stitching nice and white. And it's just a case of double-sided tape or foam tape, or whichever you would like to do. If you don't like using foam tape, another way that you can work it is if you cut 2 or 3 of the panel, and then you can build up that way. Or next week, what I'm going to hopefully do is do a little session on the new tools in Affinity, and I'm going to introduce you to the knife tool, because that was absolutely essential when I was doing the letters that I'm sure Louise is popping up very soon. So do keep an eye out for Louise's post. And we can peel that way. So this year I'm so far behind with Christmas that it's just like, it's just not going to happen. So instead what I'm doing is focusing on Christmas next year. So we've started planning what we're going to do, both for videos, and also we are going to have a stall at our local craft fair, which is going to be fun. There we go. Did I say wave tool? No, knife tool. So the knife tool is where we can actually cut into shapes. So it's useful for a couple of things, but what I was using it for was to build up layers underneath. So instead of having to have enough card to do the whole of that shape, for instance, what you can do with a knife tool is you can do basically, we can do an offset so that we have like a fixed amount around the outside. And the knife tool can just literally chop that up into lots of little pieces, and then you can use the space saving on your machine to actually get as many of those pieces in as possible to get your projects nice and thick. But it was a bit cold for swimming or surfing. Yeah, I don't swim very well at the best of times, let alone go and swim in icy water. Not going to happen. So there we go. What would look nice actually on that is just like a little gem just at the top, just to finish that off. Or you could cut a little star shape, and that would look quite fun. So actually, as I'm here, so while I do this, if you have any questions, do ask them. So I'm just going to pop my red material onto my mat, grab my pencil, get rid of the double-sided tape because otherwise I find it everywhere for ages. Let's go. Okay, I'm going to go back. I don't want to reset it at this point because obviously I've got no size reference on my mat at the moment for how big I need my star. So I'm just going to go to add pattern basic shapes, and if we scroll down in there we will find a star. So you can decide whether you want at the bottom a fat star or a thin star or a medium kind of star. So the thin star is good for if you want to do things like starfishes and things. You can do some cool designs then. But I think I'm just going to go for a nice fat star. And we obviously don't need it 10 centimetres big, so straight away we can kind of bring that down a bit. Add that onto the mat. And we can see it's way too big for our tree, so I can put it over the top. I'm going to go to Edit, Object Edit, resize and take that down a little bit more until it's at the point where I'm happy. And there we go. So I'm going to go OK at that. It's a big star, but maybe a little bit small. Still feels a little bit too big. There we go. That'll do. Okay. And then with our tree we can delete it then. So we don't need it anymore. So my material's 1 inch in and 1 inch down, so I can just move that stuff up to the top left corner and go okay, okay again, and we can just go and cut that. How do you get the stitched effect and which Uniball did you use? Okay, so the stitched effect was done when we sent the file across to canvas. We did an offset, we set the line to draw and also made a dashed line in canvas, and then we do it with a Uniball Signo Broad white gel pen. And thank you, Darcy. So over we go. And let's see if we can get the star off. There we go. And we can pop a little star at the top. There you go. That's what it needed. It needed a bit of bling. So what I am going to do is, let's get the pen, and I'm just going to do a couple of dots. And a couple of lines. So at least we kind of keep the same detail going, but it's slightly different. Okay, so I think with that I'm quite happy. I'm ready to go. So take care for now. I will see you on Sunday, so please join us Sunday. It's starting at 10 AM. If you want to join us a little bit later, that is absolutely fine. Don't think you've got to get up at the crack of dawn if you don't normally on a Sunday. And then we will have lots of fun. Next week, as I said, is going to be a bit more as and when. And the rest of the day I'm probably not going to be about too much on Facebook because I have the book to finish off. And we're hoping that we can say on Sunday, if not next week, that the book will be available for you to purchase. So what I will say is it's probably not going to be on Kindle, so you're probably looking at getting it in that funny time between Christmas and New Year. What time is it? Sunday, please. So it's starting at 10 AM UK time. As long as we remember to get up. And it's going to be that we are doing Christmas villages. So what you can do is you can bring dies with you, embossing folders, stencils if you have them for brick effects, things like that. And we are just going to have fun and hang out. So it's not necessarily going to be teach. It's probably going to be more like craft with. So if you want to have a natter, you can do. Make sure you bring snacks and a drink. So it's up to you whether that's a cup of tea, cup of coffee, or if you want to go a glass of wine being a Sunday. Up to you. So take care and I look forward to seeing you then. If I don't see you before, then have a good Christmas. If you don't catch me next week and you can't do the party, and officially we will be back on the 9th of January. So how good do you think I can be about taking time off? So I'm under strict instructions, and yeah, Ian's going to be working from home, so I can't misbehave too much. So take care and bye.